Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Learn and Solve. I'm delighted that Stuart Munton from And Digital has joined us to share his knowledge and experience around communities of practice. Okay, just to cover off what we'll talk through today. So we'll do a brief sort of check-in. It'd be great if you could just introduce yourself in chat, let us know kind of who you are, where you kind of who you're representing today, and also whereabouts you are in the country. It's always good to know. I'll start off. My name is Paul Fleming. I'm the community manager here at FutureDotNow, and I'm not actually in the country, so I'm based in Warsaw in Poland, and it's rather chilly here today, but probably not as cold as you would expect. But it's relatively cold for me. I see Stuart's kind of posted in chat as well from calling from London today. After sort of short introductions, we'll be just kind of talking a little bit around our community space and why we're doing today's session, but the majority of today's session will hand over to Stuart and to talk around communities of practice and to share insight. And we do have a short activity as part of that as well. And that's an opportunity to think about, what stage you're at with communities of practice and how you might go, maybe setting one up or sort of increasing the use and action of that as well. We'll then have opportunities for a Q&A as well towards the end. So if you do have any questions on any of this, please feel free just to drop them into chat. And we'll happily answer them towards the end of the session, and then we'll just close with some forward dates for you for next year now, because we're rapidly approaching Christmas, so the next dates will be in January for the meeting. As I've mentioned, we are recording, just to make you aware of that. If you're not sort of directly sort of talking as part of today's session, please make sure you're on mute, just to kind of make sure we don't have any sort of interrupted conversations. And please feel free to engage in chat and also sort of promote us on Twitter as well and comment there. Okay, so I was aware that some people on the call may not fully be aware of who FutureDotNow are, so I just wanted to cover that one off. So we are a coalition, we are a charity. We were set up just over 3.5 years ago now, and our focus is to tackle the essential digital skills gap in the UK through working with business to support UK working age adults. So we know from our research that nearly 2/3 of the UK workforce would benefit from growing their digital skills, and that's at sort of every level, from sort of C-suite through to the shop floor. And it's those basic digital skills as well. So everything from accessing your online payslip to setting security settings on your Wi-Fi and those sorts of things that you would need to do and often are sort of overlooked as we just presume people know. That research has told us there's a massive skill gap within the UK workforce, and if we can tackle that, it'll then unblock the talent pipeline there. We can help people develop more advanced level digital skills as well. So that's a bit more about us. If you want to know more information, you can check us out on our website, future.now.uk, to find out more information. We've got lots of reports on there. It's always a great read, some more information there. Just to set the scene for today, we asked our members what were some of the biggest blockers to delivering digital upskilling within their organizations, and this is what came through. And you can see there that 43% of responses said that resourcing and budget was a challenge in order to do that. So we wanted to think about how we could work creatively with the resources that we've got and maybe the budget that we've got. So communities of practice, hopefully, could be a way to order to tackle that by engaging your people, your already sort of knowledgeable existing workforce, tapping into their talents, knowledge and insight in order to share that and create some knowledge sharing and developing those skills. And I'm sure we'll sort of talk around that today as to how we can do that. And it's a fundamental part of who we are as an organization, developing that community. So just wanted to share two opportunities for members. one of them at the bottom that we're talking through today as part of the Learn and Solve, but we do have a community space on Slack, and that is a real opportunity for any of our member organizations and any employees within those member organizations to find out who's in the coalition. You can meet and connect with people through our community space. You can stay up to date with all the latest information. We regularly post on there, making sure that everyone's aware of our documentation, new kind of reports and insight that we share there. And then also it's an opportunity for the community to share that back as well. We want to make this a powerful forum for everybody to share that knowledge and insight together with each other. Also an opportunity for you to meet similar people and similar kind of stage of the journey as well as to where you're at in your digital upskilling journey. So there's opportunities to collaborate and work with people to understand how they're tackling the challenge within their business. We do have the Learn and Solve events as well, which is a core part of our community, and that's opportunities for you to hear from an existing member of FutureDotNow as to how you could tackle a particular part of the challenge around digital skills, and then to talk about how you can apply that back into your workplace to make it relevant for your organization. So it's very much around speeding up that entry point for you so you can start to tackle digital skills. And also a place to recognize that you're not in this alone. There is a community of organizations, a community of people there in order to support you. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Stuart now to introduce himself and then talk a bit around communities of practice. So Stuart, over to you.
Excellent, thank you, Paul. Let me just share my desktop. So good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk for maybe 10-15 minutes and then get us quickly into an exercise to talk about community of practice. So I'll do my introduction first. So this is what we're going to work through. So introductions. We're going to talk through kind of what community of practice are and definitions and kind of why they exist and why they're very useful for us from a learning point of view, and how you can, as Paul says, how you can tap into the expertise within your organization already to develop the skills that you need. Go through a set of different types of community because we have a different sets that we run within our digital, but that may be useful for you. Different styles of sessions, and then some sort of setup and techniques for actually getting them running. When we get to the breakout sessions, we're going to break into using a MIRO board, and thankfully I've got a few and digital people who've been seeded into the groups, so they're going to be the helpful seeded people in the groups to kind of guide people through using MIRO in the breakout rooms when we get to them. But they are intended to be smaller groups to allow you to kind of talk about this and ask questions and go, actually, I kind of get it, but what did you do in this scenario? What did you do in that scenario? But we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to that. So, and then we'll come back for some Q&A. So me, this is my friendly looking, smiling corporate shot. Today I'm in my Christmas jumper because it's Christmas jumper day. I am a digital transformation consultant. I have worked in digital technology for gone 20 years now. Before joining Digital, which I'll talk about in a minute, I worked for Asda.com and Walmart.com. I worked for the NHS. I worked for Premier Farnell, which is an e-commerce company, and William Hill in their online side. So there's a lot of stuff I've done in terms of kind of wide-ranging agile digital transformation. What I do at the moment, I work for a company called Digital. I am the chief for delivery for Digital, where I look after how we do delivery, product, experience design. I also look after our upskilling agenda, which is how I got connected to FutureDotNow. So we as an organization are on a mission to close the digital skills gap, and I'm running a program that's looking to upskill 200,000 people by 2025. So I'm trying to find people that we can do stuff with. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, again, contact me. My details and LinkedIn and stuff on this deck. So we'll share this stuff out. So that's me. So what we're going to talk about is COPs, communities of practice. From Digital's point of view, so Digital is a technical professional services company. So we have people, nearly 1,900 people now, generally scattered around the world, around the country, around the UK. We do have people also in Amsterdam and Rotterdam as well now. But one of the things that we needed was a way to kind of bind them together and tap into the expertise that we had within them. And communities of practice are one of the ways in which we do that. So I'm going to talk you through that and how you might then think about how you might use it in your organizations. So a couple of definitions to start with. So I'm going to say COP all the way through this, but COP is just communities of practice. Okay, so it's just we talk about COPs and COPs and COPs, so communities of practice. But there's a chap called Edmund Wenger who basically wrote the papers and the Harvard Business Review piece on this. But so he said, community practice is a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. So at a high level, that's what COP's all about. It's about getting people to share what they're doing and improve what they're doing. Going into his Harvard Business Review paper. So community of practice are groups of people who share a concern, a set of problems, a passion about the topic, who deepen their knowledge and their expertise in this area by interacting on an ongoing basis. So it's basically about how do you design, set up, support, seed, grow these as communities? Because to Paul's point in the pie chart earlier, this is it takes time, but actually it doesn't take cost. Yeah. So if you are time rich and you have availability of space within some of the people within your organizations, these are a very cost effective way of setting up knowledge, growing knowledge sharing models. So let me talk them through in a bit. So obviously, as I go through this, if anyone has a question, please raise your hand or come off mute and ask a question. So we'll answer questions as we go through, or put them in the chat and we'll come to them at the end. Why do we have communities of practice? Well, there's a lot of reasons for setting them up, but we want to connect people across the organization. So bringing people together, common purpose. Through that, we stimulate learning. We make sure that those connections are helping people from a kind of coaching, mentoring, self-reflection point of view, so that people are going, okay, you've got that challenge. Okay, I understand that challenge. I am similar to that, and therefore we can work on that. Or you know more about that, and I want to group with you because I might learn from you. So we want to capture and diffuse existing knowledge and information. So we want to kind of share stuff out and make sure that people have that common forum and that platform to have this discussion, so they can go, okay, how do we overcome this? The COPs introduce this collaborative process and the common ways of working, which allows a free exchange of information and knowledge. So upwards, downwards, sideways. So COPs are really, really useful for all manner of different kind of connecting practices. And one of the things that we're finding as we've developed with using communities of practice as well, so they help to generate new knowledge as well. So you may be using them for reinforcing, sharing, helping, but actually one of the things you do once you've gathered people together in these communities, and they may have a purpose for one purpose to start with, what you do find is they start to generate new ideas because you get that synergy, you get people coming together. And it's so cool what comes out from them. So they go, okay, that's really cool. We should do that. That's the next step. That's the next evolution for how this works together. And that's one of the beauties of humans working with each other and building these kind of knowledge networks. So they're the purposes of this. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the kind of types and tactics of them, and then we'll get into kind of Q&A and the exercise. So in terms of getting started with communities, there's a number of different types of community, and we run kind of all of these across Digital. So Digital runs 74 communities of practice across a company of 1,800 people. So we do this a lot. Our largest communities are about 450 people. So we have two which are kind of vying for our largest community. We have one which is around product management, which is one of the services that we provide as an organization, which I think has 420 in it. And we have one which is slightly different to that, which is around coaching and mentoring community of practice, which is basically how do our people get better at developing people. So it's slightly meta in terms of learning, but that one has about 450 people in it across our company. So big groups of people coming together. So the types of community that can form, they can form by role. So you may find that you're going, actually, I'd like to gather all the people who are project managers together, or all the people who are thinking about this type of roles. They may be field surface engineers, or they may be doing this type of role. They may be people who are working in whatever kind of division you're looking at. So you may gather them together by role, because roles are quite useful, because people can identify to them and go, okay, collectively we can improve ways of working about that, because you can share what your challenges are and you have a commonality about it. You may want to group regionally. So you may have people in a regional area who have a common regional challenge. Yeah. So as in, like, I want to get all my people in the northeast gathered together into a community, and they may all want to work together. So regional communities are good because they have a commonality about location. You may want to gather people together based on technical stuff. So as in, like, actually, these people are all going to look at, how do we run this new project? How do we use this new piece of technology, whatever it is? So as a technical consultancy, we have communities of practice which talk about JavaScript and React and stuff, but they don't need to be that level detail. So it's whatever is the right technical thing for you. So just think about the types of challenge that you might have in front of you in terms of those. You then also may have a change area. So you may have a change team within your organization that's running, rolling out changes. You may have an L&D team, a change team, a transformation team. So these are really good for kind of building kind of communities around those. And you build communities with communities of practice. You may have champions who come into those. And in some of the previous sessions, we've talked about champions and how they're effective. Communities of practice are kind of those groups that kind of come together on that. We also run SEI groups, so social ethics and inclusion groups. So as an example, I look after the group that looks after our neurodiverse people across the company. So it doesn't necessarily need to be against a specific process problem thing, but you can think out how you can use communities of practice in multiple different instances. So we're talking about them from a learning point of view, but from an inclusion point of view, these groups are really, really good as well. So they're really helpful from an inclusion point of view. And the final point on this is, actually what tends to happen is they're actually a mix of all of these. So you may find your project managers who are dealing with Project Aardvark in the Northeast all get together in a community of practice. And then there may be 50, 100 of them. Fine. Yeah, that's a really good community of practice, because it's a very intersectional one. So they have high connection and high purpose. So think about that in terms of context for your organizations, about what types of communities you might want to think about seeding, supporting, setting up. Can we move on to the styles of the session? So we generally run the sessions as 30 to 60-minute sessions. We tend to run them as remote meetings. So we do Zoom, Google Meets, Teams. So we'll do those, and we have those sessions fairly regularly. The one that I particularly look after, and Mike down below also helps with that as well, and is our delivery community of practice. So I look after delivery across our digital, and we do a monthly session where we get all the delivery practitioners within the company together to talk about kind of what we're doing, how we're doing things, what things are causing people problems, and how do we learn from each other. So we run that as a monthly session, and we do a variety of different sessions within that. So we get together on Zoom. We have a big Slack channel as well, and I'll talk about tooling on the next slide. But we get together and we'll do talks. So I did a talk a few weeks back around how do you scale the delivery methods that we use, the agile delivery methods that we do. We also do case studies. So last month we had a session from one of our Attendees in Halifax, who was talking about the work they're doing for Yorkshire Water at the moment. It was really good. It's really interesting. But we also have demonstrations. So a few months back, we had someone demonstrating how to do a particular process. So we were doing Monte Carlo analysis is what we were doing. It's really interesting if you're into forecasting. But so we were doing demonstrations. So there's a set of kind of learning and sharing sessions, which are really helpful types of kind of sharing piece. But then there's a next set of types of styles of session, and we try to shuffle them through, so they're not all it's not like 6 months of talks, then 6 months of case studies. We try to kind of cut them up and shuffle them in to keep it interesting. The next type is then a problem solving session. So we run clinics and drop-ins. So if you have a challenge, if you have a problem, you may want to bring it to an effective brain trust. And that's one of the things that these groups are good at doing. So they go, actually, oh, cool, I've got this particular JavaScript problem. I need my brain trust to kind of help me to work out what it is. And they'll come to that and have a clinic and a drop-in to do that, which is really useful. We might have workshop styles. So you may be working through something. You may actually, someone may bring a big challenge to it, and you may do a similar type of workshop session that we're about to go into. You may do that. So we use MIRO, we use kind of Zoom and everything else like that. Or they may just be social sessions. And I mean this in the best of intent, because network development requires us to connect with each other. So building networks is really important. Social sessions are really important. So you need to kind of sort of work on fun things, games, quizzes, et cetera, as well at the same time. So those are the styles of session. In terms of setting up the sessions then and the techniques, so we generally look for sort of 3 to 4 people to coordinate and lead the community practice. The reason for this is we've had them before where we've had one super engaged, super keen person who wants to run the community practice, and I'm going to very definitely want to do it. And they're really keen, that's great. So crack on, they can go and do it. It just has a challenge in terms of longevity, because if that person then gets super busy doing something else, then they don't have the people around them. So going back to the kind of the old African proverb, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah, and so therefore small groups are the way that we try to do this. Because actually, in the end, the group can grow to hundreds of people. Yeah, and so as I said, like the largest group of communities that we run at the moment are around 400, 450, and that takes quite a lot of time to kind of talk to them at some point as well. So a small group kind of helps with that. In terms of setting up, so COPs can be seeded. So you may have a specific change project program that you may want to get done, and therefore you may set these things up intentionally and gather together your champions and set them the thing and go and set up a community practice, go and do this. So which is fine. Yeah. So that's a really good thing to do if you've got a kind of structure, change, those sorts of impacts. But the other place that we find COPs come from is they start organically. So people start talking to each other and go like, have you done this? Do you do that? Okay, cool. There's 30 of us who are thinking about the same sort of thing. Okay, and those groups start to seed organically and grow organically, and they're formed by your people. Yeah, and they may have all met physically. They may never have met physically. So as I said, in the current climate and everything else and distributed working, lots of our people have never met each other, but they work with each other very closely, and so therefore they may meet on instant messenger, whatever. So they can come about in both sides. So in terms of technology, we set up instant messenger for chat, for building those communities to start with. So we as an organization use Slack, which I know FutureDotNow use, which is great. Slack's great, but you can use Teams, you can use Google Chat, whatever you need to use. But it's intentional from our side to say, allow the groups to form on their own. So they can form and they might get to that point, and then that's how you get that kind of organic growth thing that comes out. People can join those channels rather than being added to them. So there's some sort of useful things in IM which kind of really helps, and they talk about it. And to start with, they may not be running meetings. They may just be saying, oh, there's more people like me. Cool, good, inclusion, and then they may get into kind of running sessions. When they do get into running sessions, you need some good video conferencing. Zoom is great. We tend to use Zoom for our video, which we're really happy with. Teams is great as well if you're a Microsoft user as well. Make sure, like we're recording this session, it's a current meta, that you record your community's practice as well, because some people won't be able to attend, because you may want to run them in the mornings, at lunch times, in the afternoons, etc. So you won't find an optimal time for 400 people within your organization to all join a thing. Okay, so there will never be a perfect time. We've tried all different times of the day from all of our different COPs. They've all moved around all over the place. The only thing you've got to do is just allow a bit of flexibility, and then make sure you record them and then share that. So therefore, if you've done some slides like we've done for this and Paul's done, you need to make sure you then have some file storage where you can share the slides, share the videos, so people can come back to those. So you've got a library going backwards, and those libraries have been really useful for us. So like if you take the delivery community of practice, which I look after, we refer back to those videos quite regularly. Someone goes, oh, have we got a thing about this? Well, yeah, actually we had a talk on that, and then here's the video of that talk, and people go and consume that offline. Much more than I kind of gave it credit for. I was going, oh, we're going to record things and people will never look at them. But so many people go and look at them and then come back and go, Stuart, I saw that talk about this. What are we going to do about that? And go, cool, great. I'm really glad you did that. And that might be 6 months, a year after we've done that. So therefore, make sure that those things are shared, recorded, stored, shared, so that everybody can go and find them. Cool. So that was the whistle-stop tour of what a COP is, how do you set them up, and how you do them. I imagine there are some questions. Let's have a look. Are there any questions in the chat at the moment? Where is the chat window gone? Paul, are there any questions in the chat? Because I can't quite see it at the moment.
As yet, there's not. I think people have been listening intently. So if you do have any questions or anything to sort of percolate over this next sort of activity, we can sort of collect those and we'll sort of have a Q&A after the activity.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into the breakout rooms. Let me start on this, but then we kind of moved into a really good discussion with Scott from YBS around actually that technology is moving very fast, and we need to get ways in which we can keep people learning. We need people to keep coming back from a kind of colleague enablement point of view, and we need to be able to help them to build long-term confidence. And one of the things that was interesting, because we were looking at sort of how YBS are doing stuff, talking about how Anne does stuff, but also have a discussion about how FutureDotNow uses community. So it was slightly meta in terms of some of the statements, but one of the things we're trying to do is kind of build between learning and development as a schedule of things, but also then tying that to communities of practice and going, actually, the community of practice may be discussing something which is a problem now, yesterday, whereas actually the learning and development plan may actually be much more tied into what the problem was months back, because there's a scheduling thing there. And how do you tie those two things together? So it's a really, really good conversation in our group. So that's it from us. Would anyone from group number 2 like to give a 30-second overview?
Yeah, I can do that. We kind of built a timeline from left to right, Stu. As you can see, it starts off with defining your reason and your goal, and what the benefits to the business would be, all that good stuff. Identifying the community, your audience. A great question was, how can people find time to attend? Louise was really brilliant input on that around shift working at Heathrow and various problems that would entail. We had a good conversation around that. So build your leadership team, agree location, and that it's just, and a good point there was think about feedback. So wait a little while and then, gather some feedback and apply that. Have you got anything you want to add, Louise or Tom?
No, all good for me. Thanks, Mike.
I think, yeah, good discussion, and loads of the challenges were things that we've faced and setting things up. I think sometimes the answer can be kind of, it depends, and there's an element of, in the early days, a bit of experimentation on time, formats, and also the guidance. Are these optional or expected, and kind of giving people a bit of freedom, but making sure it fits around their work expectations.
Excellent. Thank you, guys, and well done for kind of getting a load of stuff in timeline again. So really good. It's how my brain works as well. So that's lovely. So that's our session for this part done. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand back over to Paul, so he can do the kind of close on this and talk around what goes on next for us. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for getting involved in the boards.
Fantastic. If anybody does have any questions, we'd happy for me a couple of minutes just to answer a few of those. I have a question actually, Stuart. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there and see whether you have a view on it. So our members, some of the audience that they're trying to tackle are the ones that are sort of furthest removed from digital skills. I just wondered, what's your view on maybe how to encourage a community of practice, or is it the right place with those individuals, and how can you reduce barriers to entry? Because typically it's going to be a platform through Slack or Teams, or which could be the skills that they need to develop.
So again, you can't use digital channels for digitally excluded people is the hard part of that. And so therefore, if you are trying to reach out to a disadvantaged group, you need to find a way to be with them in person together. Because if people are struggling to get onto technology, if they don't have devices, if they don't have bandwidth, they don't have network, then you need to do something else with them. And so because one of the challenges in the digital community is we try to always use digital things to solve a digital exclusion gap, and that doesn't work. And so therefore you need to be out and doing those things, which is hard, because that takes a lot of time. It requires space, it requires physical location, and so therefore it's hard. The reason that digitization is running quite so fast is because it actually allows us to do a lot of this stuff, but we take it for granted that we can just do this, and the people who can't do this, and they're the excluded people, and that we have to go out to them and help them. Scott, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. I think probably my question is the opposite end of that. So we within our digital skills program, we've got a skills assessor, and we can sort of see the results for that. What we're kind of seeing is it's the upper end of that audience that we're struggling to bring into the conversation. So the people that are maybe higher up in the scores, that maybe feel like they've got that literacy and those foundations in place, and so therefore don't need the rest of the program, which technically is true, but we've kind of tried to position it as much as we can as, well, there's an opportunity then for you to engage with the rest of the community and share your knowledge and expertise, and help them along the way. I just wonder, because you've mentioned some of the examples of COPs there around kind of roles and technical. I can imagine there's some similar challenges there potentially around the people that maybe excel more in the role, or people who are more expert in any technical area. How do you bring them into that conversation? Is that something you've dealt with, and do you have any ideas around it?
And what one of, again, from a company value point of view, one of our values is sharing, and so therefore we always go back to them going, cool, actually you've come through this journey, you know this stuff, actually we'd like you to go back through and train and mentor and coach people. And that loop is an expectation from an digital point of view, but it's also a really nice thing because you reinforce your learning by training. If you teach, you learn it better, and if you mentor, and then you can be directive in terms of the one-to-one, the group stuff, and then you coach in the kind of open space. It reinforces your knowledge and your learning. So we use a lot of our kind of seniors to come back through those loops. Like people like Mike on the call is like, it's actually exactly so that he comes and does mentoring and coaching and for the people who are more junior coming through our communities. And that's great, and that it gives. I'm talking for you, Mike. Apologies. The intention of it is to give the expert that validation, the kind of the gold star, going, yeah, you are an expert in this stuff, and you are recognized, and people love that, and it's really valuable. It's good for them. It's good for all the people that they're training and upskilling. So there's loops of that. We also see that as a pattern with some of the coding schools that we support. So if someone has come through one of the coding schools, they can quite often go back to be a trainer for the next cohort, and then etc. So there's that sort of cohort, been through, learned, come back again and be the next level of mentor. It's a nice pattern, and it works quite nicely. But at some point, your people may actually get beyond the group and maybe find them and get them together to film their little group and actually get them to talk about what they need to do. So okay. They'll give you your answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Stuart. Cheers.
Great. I'll just share my screen for the last slide, and then we'll just close the session off. So just a big thank you from me to Stuart, and also from everyone at Digital that's helped out today. I really appreciate your input. As I said, we have been recording this, so we do have a number of people we know sort of view this sort of offline, online, either way, asynchronously, let's say it that way. So just want to cover off, we do have our next event happening in January, that's going to be with Travis Perkins, and you can book onto that through our website. And then we do have our next in-person event happening, which will be on the 10th of March, and that'll be at the London Guildhall. Again, you can book that as well. And then we also have another session in March, which will be online again, which will be with Marks and Spencer's. So all bookable to the website, and it would be great to see you there for one of those. So that just leaves me to close and thank everybody for your input. If you want to find out more information, jump onto the website. You can read our Unpacking the Hidden Middle report, which has the data on the scale of the digital skills gap. And then we want to just launch a quick poll just to see what you thought of today. So if I can find that option, I'll do that now. It should be appearing on your screens, but thank you very much for your time, everybody. It was great to see you all and engage in the conversation, and look forward to seeing you next time in January. Thanks now. Bye.